love coffee, but do not know how this drink affects your body. Now we will reveal all the secrets, and you will have no more doubts. We will tell you how coffee affects every organ, and, of course, the liver, because this organ is one of the most important in our body. By the way, did you know that the liver is able to function for more than 600 years? The heart and brain are designed for at least 300 years, but unfortunately, we have learned to kill ourselves in 70 years. Let's face it, if you're not drinking coffee every day, you're depriving your body of tons of nutrients and micronutrients. Recent studies have confirmed that coffee's benefits are not limited to its antioxidant effects alone. Coffee was honored and praised back in the Middle Ages, but in Europe, the beans appeared only in the 17th centuries, thanks to Venetian merchants who brought it from the Arab world. You will probably be interested to know how and when coffee came to America. One of the first places where coffee appeared in the early 18th century were the Caribbean islands, including Martinique and Jamaica, thanks to European colonizers, especially the French and Spanish, who began cultivating coffee plantations. It is believed that the first coffee trees in Martinique were planted in 1723 by Gabriel de Quay from coffee beans brought from Paris. Coffee arrived in North America somewhat later. During the colonial era, during and after the American Revolution, coffee became popular as an alternative to tea, in part due to the boycott of British tea following the Stamp Act and the Boston Tea Party in 1773. These events led to an increase in the demand and popularity of coffee in the United States. Subsequently, with increased urbanization and the Industrial Revolution, coffee became an important part of American culture. Coffee houses sprang up where one could enjoy the flavorful beverage brought from distant lands. Today, coffee is drunk for its great taste, aroma, and to cheer up. But does everyone know the true value of coffee? Let's explore together. The composition of coffee is now fully known. It contains caffeine, trigonelline, nitrogenous substances, lipids, carbohydrates, organic acids, oligoelements, and vitamins. In combination, drinking coffee has the following effects on our body. After a cup of strong drink, physical activity improves. Caffeine, the main active ingredient of coffee, a naturally occurring alkaloid, stimulates the central nervous system, improves physical activity, and increases stamina. Increases brain activity. Caffeine improves cognitive functions of the brain such as attention, concentration, memory, and reaction. Coffee can help us get energized and stay more productive at work and in our daily lives. The risk of developing chronic diseases is reduced. Did you know that regular coffee consumption helps reduce the risk of developing diseases such as type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, and even some cancers? This is primarily due to its antioxidant properties, which help protect the body from free radical buildup. Drinking coffee in the morning will improve your mood for the whole day. Caffeine stimulates the production of the hormones endorphins and serotonin, which are responsible for a good mood and a sense of satisfaction. Therefore, moderate consumption of ground beans will help to lift your mood and cope with mild depression. Regular coffee consumption reduces the risk of developing Parkinson's disease. The fact that coffee contains organic substances and acids that help protect nerve cells in the brain from damage. Scientists note that coffee drinkers are 18% less at risk of the disease. This is not all the properties that coffee has. Thanks to the rich composition of the beans, it is possible to make not only tasty, but also useful drinks. Reduces the risk of heart disease. Caffeine can increase blood pressure in the short term, but its regular consumption reduces the risk of heart disease such as heart attack and coronary artery disease. This is because the beans contain antioxidants and organic acids that are beneficial to the cardiovascular system. The risk of liver pathology is reduced. Natural coffee helps protect the liver from diseases such as cirrhosis, non-alcoholic fatty disease, hepatitis, liver cancer. Regular use has an accumulative effect, so a cup of invigorating drink will be very useful for breakfast. In more detail, the effect of coffee on the liver we will talk further. However, like any product, it should be consumed in moderation. Too much coffee can lead to unwanted side effects such as insomnia, anxiety, and high blood pressure. But how does coffee affect the liver after all? The liver is an organ that plays a crucial role in processing food, purifying the blood and disposing of toxins. It is also responsible for producing bile, which helps break down fats and improves digestion. Coffee contains many active components, including caffeine, antioxidants, and polyphenols. These substances have a positive effect on liver cells, improving liver function and protecting it from damage. Several foreign studies have shown that coffee consumption is associated with a reduced risk of liver cirrhosis, which is a serious disease that leads to organ dysfunction and even death. Coffee also helps prevent fatty liver degeneration, which occurs when fat cells accumulate excessively in the organ. In addition, the drink effectively protects the liver from alcohol intoxication, helps to recover faster after poisoning. Epidemiological studies show that taking coffee 3 or 4 cups a day reduces mortality among those infected with HIV and viral hepatitis C. Moderate consumption of this beverage reduces the risk of cancer by an average of 10%. Do you drink natural coffee? Share in the comments how many cups a day you consider optimal for you. How does coffee affect blood vessels? Naturally, the effects of coffee are not limited to the liver alone. Due to the high content of the natural alkaloid caffeine, coffee has a stimulating effect. When regularly ingested, it eliminates fatigue, increases blood circulation, and stimulates the functions of the cardiovascular system. But not all the vessels of coffee have the same effect. So, vasodilating effect of caffeine has on veins, arteries, heart, and kidney vessels. On the contrary, the vasoconstrictive effect of the alkaloid has on the vessels of the digestive system. This helps to improve the breakdown of food, normalize digestion, stimulate intestinal peristalsis. Also, when drinking coffee narrows the vessels of the pelvic organs, become less painful menstruation, but especially strong caffeine narrows the vessels of the brain. Thanks to a cup of coffee goes spasm, headache, discomfort. In bad weather, a small dosage of caffeine in the blood improves the general condition of the person. But coffee is not recommended for people with chronic vascular diseases, also suffering from vegetovascular dystonia. Now, pay attention. In what cases does coffee cause harm to the body? Unfortunately, like all healthy products, in large quantities coffee can cause harm to the body. When is it dangerous? If there are no severe diseases of the blood vessels and heart, coffee will have a favorable effect on the body. A couple of cups a day will not harm health. But in the presence of serious heart pathologies, even a small content of caffeine can provoke severe pain in the heart area. Therefore, it is better not to drink coffee with hypertension, so as not to provoke jumps from the real pressure. Also, caffeine is contraindicated in ischemic heart disease, tachycardia, vascular aneurysm, glaucoma. General contraindications include the following. 1. Pregnancy and breastfeeding. Caffeine penetrates through the placenta and breast milk. This may adversely affect the health of the child. 2. Insomnia and other sleep disorders. Caffeine acts excitatory, so it can lead to a violation of the normal mode of falling asleep. 3. Gastritis and gastric ulcer with increased acidity. 4. Taking certain medications, birth control pills, antidepressants, diuretics. In addition, some people have an individual intolerance to coffee, which will also lead to negative consequences. Therefore, if you are not sure whether you can consume coffee, it is better to consult your doctor. Otherwise, coffee is a useful, versatile, and tasty drink that has a complex effect on the whole body. With its help, you will prevent many diseases, be more alert and active. If you want to diversify the taste and aroma, add a little honey, a slice of lemon or cinnamon to your coffee.
Coffee in the morning is the perfect mood booster and a great way to start your day. This is because coffee can often help you get through your tasks or make them more bearable. Undoubtedly, this is why it will become your favorite beverage. But, how much do you really know about coffee? You can get more out of your favorite morning beverage more than you think. Because coffee contains substances that can protect you from type 2 diabetes and heart failure, increases energy levels and focus, protects the liver from developing cirrhosis and cancer, reduces the risk of stroke and developing Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, is good for athletes increasing stamina, and how coffee is linked to the risk of developing depression and dying by suicide. Not only that, there are many facts about coffee that you may not have known. So, grab your cup of coffee and watch to the end as we discuss 11 amazing facts about coffee. If you want to become a master of your health, put a like and we'll get started. So, you will be amazed to know that coffee is a fruit. You may think that coffee is grown on tea plantations and acquires its qualities after the leaves are harvested. However, this is not the case. Coffee cherries are fruits because they have seeds that are not part of the plant like the root. Coffee plants produce fruit, and the beans grow inside the fruit. That being said, the berries come in two types, red and green. Red berries have a more pleasant aroma and less acidic taste, making them preferred for lightly roasted coffee. Do you know why coffee boosts energy levels? Coffee contains high amounts of the stimulant substance caffeine. Caffeine boosts energy levels by increasing metabolic rate and fighting fatigue. It also increases the release of adrenaline, the brain's energy hormone. Caffeine blocks receptors for a neurotransmitter called adenosine. Your nervous system controls adenosine levels, and when they get dangerously high, your brain slows down and you want to take a nap or at least slow down. After drinking coffee, adenosine levels decrease and levels of neurotransmitters like dopamine increase, which boosts energy levels. A study of cycling participants after drinking caffeine found that coffee increased cycling time by 12% and significantly reduced fatigue levels. Another study had similar results, but it was conducted on golfers. In this study, it was found that caffeine consumption before and during golf increased performance, reduced fatigue, and increased subjective energy levels. Back to our topic, coffee may protect you from type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is a chronic disease that affects the body's response to sugar. When blood sugar levels remain high, it can lead to serious health problems. Drinking coffee can help you reduce your risk of developing type 2 diabetes. According to a study, people who drink coffee have a lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes than those who don't drink coffee, whether it contains caffeine or not. This effect is because coffee protects the functionality of beta cells in the pancreas that produce insulin, which regulates blood sugar levels. Coffee also contains magnesium, which helps the body break down sugar. Are you struggling to control your weight? We have good news for you. Caffeine can also help you control your weight, stay fit and fight obesity. Coffee supports gut health and alters fat deposition, which is beneficial for weight control and heart health. A recent review showed that men with low body fat consumed high amounts of caffeine as part of coffee. Other studies prove that it has the same effect on women as well. Another study showed that people who consumed more than 1 cup of coffee a day were almost 20% more likely to meet the recommended physical activity. This is a proven fact that recommended physical activity is higher than those who consume less than 1 cup per day. You can add coffee to your weight loss plan, but make sure you don't add fatty milk or sugar to it. The next fact may surprise you, but coffee reduces the risk of developing depression. Some studies have shown that drinking coffee reduces the risk of developing depression and helps reduce its symptoms. Every cup of coffee you consume daily reduces your risk of developing depression by 8%. One study found that in over 200,000 people, coffee consumption was associated with a lower risk of death by suicide. Another study noted that drinking at least 4 cups of coffee was associated with a significantly lower risk of developing depression than people who drank just 1 cup a day. Besides, your liver really likes coffee. Liver disease is a serious condition that can lead to life-threatening complications, including cirrhosis. The good news is that coffee can keep your liver healthy and protect against this disease. A daily cup of coffee reduces the risk of dying from chronic liver disease by 15%. If you're an avid coffee drinker, you'll be happy to know that drinking 4 cups a day reduces the risk of dying from liver disease by about 70%. Studies have shown that drinking more than 2 cups of coffee a day reduces the risk of developing liver cancer and liver scarring if you are living with liver disease. Coffee also reduces liver stiffness, which is associated with scar tissue formation. Coffee supports the heart. Coffee helps improve the overall health of the heart. Drinking 3 to 5 cups of coffee a day protects you from heart disease, improves your overall heart health, and reduces your risk of dying from cardiovascular complications. One review found that drinking nearly 4 cups of coffee a day reduced the risk of stroke by 21%. And that's not all. A study of nearly 21,000 people also found that drinking large amounts of coffee significantly reduces the risk of heart failure. However, if you're a coffee drinker, remember that caffeine can regulate your blood pressure levels. Therefore, if your blood pressure is unregulated, you need to limit or moderate your caffeine intake. Coffee in the brain isn't just about improving your concentration. Coffee can protect you from Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is a progressive brain disease that affects your ability to think and leads to memory loss. Unfortunately, there is currently no cure, but early diagnosis and treatment can slow the progression of the disease. A review of studies has shown that the more coffee you consume, the lower your risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. It also reduces the risk of developing Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease is a progressive neurological disease that results in impaired balance and movement. As with Alzheimer's disease, there is currently no cure for it, but there are treatments available to slow the progression of the disease. However, if you drink coffee regularly, your risk of developing Parkinson's is much lower, and coffee can also slow the progression of the disease. In addition, limited coffee consumption can reduce the risk of developing dementia and cognitive decline. Coffee also has beneficial effects on the skin. Coffee beans contain polyphenols such as chlorogenic acids called CGA, which have antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties that can protect you from photoaging. You can apply liquid coffee on your skin or use a scrub made from coffee grounds. This will help you deal with skin problems like psoriasis, eczema, and acne. Just don't forget to refrigerate the coffee before using it. Last but not least, coffee improves athletic performance. You've probably heard that caffeine can dehydrate the body, which is one of the main reasons fitness experts recommend avoiding its consumption before and after a workout. However, a recent study has shown that moderate caffeine consumption before a workout increases endurance and reduces perceived exertion. Athletes who want to increase their performance and energy levels often consume coffee as an ergogenic agent. Ergogenic is also known as a performance enhancer. In another study involving about 125 older adults, it was noted that coffee consumption was associated with significant improvements in physical performance and gait speed. The researchers took into account factors such as age, amount of body fat, and level of physical activity. All of these facts and the health benefits of drinking coffee are amazing, but that doesn't mean you should readily increase the amount of coffee you consume. In some people, coffee in high doses can cause irritability, anxiety, or nervousness, as well as affecting the quality of sleep and causing insomnia. If you suffer from hypertension, coffee can raise your blood pressure. Also, avoid coffee if you are pregnant or breastfeeding, it can cause jitters. So how much coffee is considered healthy and how much is too much? 2 to 3 medium cups a day, as long as it's free of milk, cream, and sugar. Caffeine affects everyone differently, so if you start to experience any negative side effects, consider cutting back on your coffee consumption. Yes, we all love coffee, but it's important to realize that even the most rigorous scientific studies are subjective. So, by all means, enjoy your morning beverage, but interpret these facts with caution.
In this video, I will talk about coffee and its properties. I have been asked for a long time to record this video. Many people, when they want to emphasize that they follow the principles of healthy eating and a healthy lifestyle in general, do not forget to mention that they do not drink coffee or drink it very little. Are they right? And does giving up coffee actually lead to favorable health outcomes? Let's look at the facts. In 2017, the British Journal of Medicine, which, by the way, is quite an old journal, being 180 years old and highly respected in the medical world, published a massive article that included a review of 201 meta-analyses of observational studies and 17 meta-analyses of interventional studies. Observational studies are when a group of people is simply observed without any conditions imposed on them. Interventional studies are when a group of people is observed, but they are required to adhere to certain conditions, for example, drinking 3 cups of coffee a day. This is the difference between observational and interventional studies. I want to note that caffeine is by no means the most important component of coffee. There are about 1,000 biologically active substances. The most important of these are chlorogenic acids, caffestyl, caffeic acid, vitamin B2, magnesium, and so on. All these components play a significant role in antioxidant processes, that is, in protecting cells from the negative influence of reactive oxygen and nitrogen compounds. All these compounds have anti-inflammatory actions, and there is even an opinion albeit an uncertain one, that coffee can trigger the activation of sirtuins, enzymes that regulate our genetic youthfulness, essentially activating youth genes. Thanks to such an interesting set of components, it is believed that coffee can exhibit many different effects. And the first effect we will explore is the impact of coffee on mortality from all causes. It turns out that people who consume 3 to 4 cups of coffee a day have a 10% lower chance of dying from all causes: cardiovascular, oncology, some infectious diseases, and so on. This is called mortality from various causes. These people have a 10% lower risk, so this already does not align with the views of those who believe that a healthy diet should not include coffee. It turns out quite the opposite. This work revealed many facts that we were previously unaware of, even believing that the situation was completely the opposite. In the video description below, you will, of course, find a link to this article in English. Let's clarify what we mean by a cup of coffee. By a cup of coffee, we mean about 230 milliliters of coffee. Usually, this is referred to as an Americano in English-speaking literature. This cup of coffee, that's 8 ounces of liquid, containing approximately 95 milligrams of caffeine. For any cup of coffee, we usually mean ground, standard coffee, ranging from 7 to 9 grams of ground beans. Well, these are the figures we will refer to. The second important factor: some people are afraid of coffee, believing that coffee can cause an increase in blood pressure. Indeed, some people who are sensitive to caffeine may experience an increase in blood pressure for a few minutes right after drinking a cup of coffee. And there may be an increase in heart rate and some anxious reactions. But these reactions pass very quickly. On the other hand, this only concerns those people who have an increased sensitivity to caffeine. There are not very many such people. Conducted studies show that coffee practically does not affect blood pressure. That is, there are no statistically significant deviations. What coffee does affect is slightly changing the lipid spectrum, and not for the better. The changes are minimal, but nonetheless, the level of bad cholesterol may increase. The level of good cholesterol may decrease. The level of total cholesterol may rise slightly, and triglyceride levels may rise slightly. But these changes concern only the consumption of regular coffee. In cafes, decaffeinated coffee is entirely safe in this respect. The following properties attributed to coffee with concern include its potential to cause cancer. Indeed, in 1991, coffee was classified among probable carcinogens. But in 2016, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, a WHO agency, absolved coffee of all charges. In 2018, there was minor uproar in America, specifically in California, where coffee manufacturers were even required to stick labels on coffee packs stating that coffee could cause certain types of cancer. This was all about acrylamide. Acrylamide is a substance that forms at high temperatures when interacting with carbohydrates. Acrylamide, by the way, is produced during coffee roasting, popcorn making, and even when frying potatoes. It is also present in bakery products, cookies, and so forth. However, this situation did not last long, and the accusations against coffee were once again dropped because the amount of acrylamide it contains is very, very insignificant. The entire fuss about acrylamide was raised because, in laboratory animals tested for acrylamide's effects, concentrations were used that significantly exceeded those typically found in coffee. Thus, it was determined that such concentrations would never be reached under normal conditions, and coffee was exonerated. And here's something interesting. Facts indicate that consuming coffee reduces the risk of developing certain types of cancer. Let me list them: prostate cancer, endometrial cancer, melanoma, and non-melanoma skin cancer. These are quite serious oncological diseases. Additionally, coffee consumption decreases the likelihood of developing leukemias. There was speculation that coffee consumption increases the risk of lung and esophageal cancer, but upon further investigation, it was found that coffee consumption, as the drink is usually consumed hot, can indeed cause irritation of the esophagus. This can lead to oncological processes, just like all hot beverages, but this does not directly relate to the properties of coffee itself, but rather to the temperature at which it is consumed. As for lung cancer, the situation is not so clear-cut. It turned out that lung cancer and coffee were only associated in cases where individuals with lung cancer smoked. Nowadays, coffee is consumed together with cigarettes by enthusiasts, naturally leading to lung cancer. Therefore, if you don't smoke, there is no risk associated with lung cancer. Regarding the gastrointestinal tract, coffee stimulates bile formation, which accelerates the passage, meaning the movement of food through the intestines. This reduces the contact time of processed food with the intestinal wall, which, in turn, decreases the adverse load on the intestines. It is believed that the fast passage of food can play a positive role in preventing gastrointestinal tract cancer. Another point related to the gastrointestinal tract is coffee's ability to prevent stone formation. Coffee has a very strong choleritic effect and causes contraction of the gallbladder. This accelerates the secretion of bile and simply does not allow the formation of bile stasis, thereby reducing the likelihood of stone formation. It was also observed that people who consume coffee have a lower risk of developing fatty liver disease, or liver obesity, a lower risk of developing fibrosis and liver cirrhosis. The next important point is the effect of coffee on metabolism. It turns out that consuming coffee reduces the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. This property is attributed to the high content of magnesium in coffee. And magnesium, as I have already mentioned in one of the previous videos, indeed positively affects the body's sensitivity to insulin, etc. This significantly reduces the likelihood of developing type 2 diabetes. Additionally, it was noted that coffee consumption decreases the risk of developing gout and kidney stones. Studies have shown that consuming 3, 4, even more cups of coffee a day is associated with a reduction in the incidence of cardiovascular diseases, particularly heart attacks and strokes. Regarding cardiovascular disease, the reduction is by 19%, and for strokes, by a whole 30%. Interestingly, if we exceed this threshold of 3-4 cups a day, say 5 to 10, studies still show that it is better. That is, it is better to drink 10 cups than not to drink coffee at all. Another piece of good news about coffee is its action on neurological diseases, and foremost, such a terrifying disease as Parkinson's disease. One study in Finland, which was conducted, showed that consuming a large amount of coffee, up to 10 cups a day, led to a 24% reduction in the risk of developing Parkinson's disease. Imagine, by a quarter. For me personally, this is a very good reason to drink coffee. However, for Alzheimer's disease, no such encouraging results were obtained. That is, it neither worsens nor improves. But what about the negative effects of consuming coffee? There are some, and they relate to two systems. First and foremost is obstetrics. Indeed, the consumption of a large amount of coffee by pregnant women is definitely a minus. In the body of a pregnant woman, the half-life of caffeine is twice as high as under normal conditions. That means, if a regular person drinks 2 cups, then 1 cup is enough for a pregnant woman to have the same effect. The consumption of caffeine and caffeine-containing products contributes, unfortunately, to a reduction in fetal weight, preterm births, and stillbirths. Therefore, the consumption of coffee by pregnant women is generally limited to about 100 milligrams a day. That is, 1 cup, no more. Another negative impact is on the musculoskeletal system. It has been noted that, at menopause, women who consume coffee have a 14% higher risk of bone fractures. The reason for this is not yet explained. There were thoughts that coffee somehow inhibits calcium absorption. These thoughts, by the way, have not been confirmed experimentally or observationally. Well, it may be that it all lies in vitamin D. However, the studies that were conducted did not account for the intake of vitamin D with these women, so further research is required here. But for now, we know what we know. Summarizing everything I've said, coffee undoubtedly has more positive properties than negative ones. This concerns overall life expectancy, mortality from cardiovascular diseases, mortality from cancer, and the development of Parkinson's disease. That is, I've listed the main points. Negative aspects include the impact on pregnancy and possibly on bone fractures in women. All other potential adverse effects of coffee, such as increased irritability, palpitations, some temporary increases in blood pressure, should be regarded simply as individual intolerance. If you exhibit such a property, well, then coffee is not the drink for you. But for all those who tolerate coffee well and love it, drink to your health. 3 to 4 cups are absolutely safe and the norm per day. In principle, even more. Crossing this boundary is also not dangerous. It's better than not drinking coffee at all.
How does coffee affect blood vessels? When is it good to drink coffee? When is it better to abstain from drinking coffee? Let's take a look at the objective facts, tested and reviewed by qualified experts, when it is recommended to drink coffee and when it is best to abstain from it. So, if you're watching your health, you should take a closer look at what we're about to tell you. And there are many reasons for that. Some of them you definitely didn't know about. A lot of people like to drink coffee. They drink it not only in the morning, but also in the afternoon, after lunch, and in the evening. Without even thinking about what effect coffee has on the blood vessels and on the whole body. Why does coffee affect blood vessels? Coffee contains substances such as caffeine, theophylline and theobromine, which dilate blood vessels, but at the same time increase the release of adrenaline, which narrows blood vessels. This is the paradox that occurs in the vascular response to coffee. First there is vasodilation and then there is vasoconstriction. Coffee is a stimulant of the body, promoting the production of adrenaline. The drink increases vitality, improves blood flow, stabilizes microhemodynamics. With moderate use of coffee, blood vessels as if exercised, first expanding and then narrowing, which has a positive effect on their tone. Caffeine, in addition to expanding blood vessels, also stimulates the heart, excites the nervous system, reduces blood viscosity. All this together stimulates blood flow. Theobromine is the antipode of caffeine, but its concentration in refried beans is small, so the effect on blood vessels is insignificant, but still weakens the effect of caffeine. Theophylline relaxes the vascular wall, improves blood flow in the vessels of the brain and lungs. It has a bronchodilator effect, affecting not only the tone of blood vessels, but also the muscular wall of the bronchi. When is it good to drink coffee? Drinking 1 cup of coffee a day is good for everyone. For any person. But if you have an addiction to caffeine, you should drink it. You should not drink more than 4 cups of coffee a day. But it is reasonable to consume 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day in the following cases. In persistent hypotension, when blood pressure is constantly low, and from this weakness and drowsiness. If bradycardia is expressed, that is, a rare pulse, in which there are also symptoms of decreased body tone, constant fatigue is noted. With frequent migraines, you can try to exclude the use of coffee. This drink will improve blood flow in the cerebral vessels, which will help get rid of intrusive, sometimes intolerable headaches. The presence of edema, the appearance of bags under the eyes, swelling of the hands and feet, is an indication to drink an extra cup of coffee, because coffee, stimulating the vessels of the kidneys, has a diuretic effect and will remove excess fluid from the body. Severe pain during critical days in women, pronounced premenstrual syndrome, will pass completely or significantly reduced against the background of coffee. General weakness, drowsiness will pass after a few cups of coffee. But before you stimulate your body with coffee, you should consult your doctor and find out why you are experiencing these symptoms. After all, it could be a problem caused by a serious health condition, and drinking coffee may not only fail to have the expected effect, but also aggravate the condition. Coffee is quite an active drink, so in a number of changes in the body, it is not worth using it. In what cases is it better to refrain from drinking coffee? Do not tempt fate and drink coffee if there is a frequent increase in blood pressure. There are changes in blood flow in the vessels of the brain or heart, decirculatory encephalopathy, angina pectoris. There are cardiac arrhythmias, tachycardia, as well as the occurrence of extrasystoles. The condition after craniocerebral trauma, concussion or contusion of the brain. There is an increase in intraocular pressure, glaucoma, intracranial pressure. There are aneurysms, areas of dilation, in the vessels of the brain. Veins in the esophagus or lower extremities are dilated. There are areas of thrombosis. Coffee in such situations should be treated with great caution, and it is better to replace it with other drinks that do not so actively affect the body. What can be done to weaken the excitatory and stimulating effect of coffee? If you cannot do without coffee at all, if you are such an avid coffee addict that you cannot enjoy life without a cup of flavored drink, you can do the following. Use coffee from which caffeine has been removed. then the reaction on the body will be minimal. Add milk to coffee or brew with milk. The alkaline environment will neutralize many of the stimulating properties of coffee. Along with coffee, eat a lemon slice with sugar or an orange slice with cinnamon. All these techniques will help you reduce the effects of coffee on your blood vessels. Drink coffee within reasonable limits. If you feel it is having a negative effect on your body, consult your doctor.
Morning coffee is not only a great way to boost your mood and kickstart a new day, but it can also make tasks easier to accomplish. It is these qualities that can make coffee your favorite beverage. However, how much do you really know about your morning elixir? There are many more benefits hidden in coffee than most people assume. It can protect against diseases such as type 2 diabetes and heart failure, improve concentration and energy levels, prevent the development of cirrhosis and liver cancer, reduce the risk of stroke and diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, increase stamina in athletes, and has been linked to a lower risk of depression and suicide. Interesting point. Who lives longer, coffee fans or those who avoid it? And what's the situation with coffee in children? Is it safe to consume it, and from what age? We will also highlight contraindications to coffee consumption, give advice on how to get the most out of the drink, and outline a safe daily rate of its consumption for adults and children. There are a lot of interesting facts about coffee that you may not know. It is believed that coffee was first discovered in Ethiopia and the Kaffa region, which gave the drink its name. According to legend, a shepherd named Kaldi noticed that his goats became unusually alert after eating the berries of a certain shrub. Later, local monks used these berries to make a drink that helped them stay awake during prayer hours at night. Coffee then spread to the Arabian Peninsula, where it began to be cultivated and became an important part of Arab culture. In the 15th and 16th centuries, coffee became known in Persia, Egypt, Turkey, and North Africa. Coffee houses became popular places of socializing. Coffee came to Europe in the 17th century via trade routes and quickly gained popularity, especially in Italy, France, and England. Coffee arrived in America in the late 17th century, but did not become widely popular until the 18th century, especially after the Boston Tea Party in 1773, when American colonists began giving up tea to protest the high taxes imposed by the British government. This event contributed to the rise of coffee consumption in America. Coffee became an integral part of American culture, and with the development of coffee chains in the 20th and 21st centuries, its popularity only increased. You will be amazed to learn that coffee is a fruit. You may think that coffee is grown on tea plantations and acquires its qualities after the leaves are harvested. However, this is not the case. Coffee cherries are fruits because they have seeds that are not part of the plant like the root. Coffee plants produce fruit, and the beans grow inside the fruit. That being said, the berries come in two types, red and green. Red berries have a more pleasant aroma and less acidic taste, making them preferable for lightly roasted coffee. It is time to tell you about the benefits of drinking coffee. Coffee supports the heart and blood vessels. Coffee helps to improve the overall health of your heart. Drinking 3 to 5 cups of coffee a day protects you from heart disease, improves your overall heart health, and reduces your risk of dying from cardiovascular complications. One review found that drinking nearly 4 cups of coffee a day reduced the risk of stroke by 21%. And that's not all. A study of nearly 21,000 people also found that drinking large amounts of coffee significantly reduces the risk of heart failure. However, if you're a coffee drinker, remember that caffeine can regulate your blood pressure levels. Therefore, if your blood pressure is unregulated, you need to limit or moderate your caffeine intake. You can learn exactly how coffee affects your blood vessels in our great video, link in the description. In addition, your liver is also very fond of coffee. Liver disease is a serious condition that can lead to life-threatening complications, including cirrhosis. The good news is that coffee can keep your liver healthy and protect against this disease. A daily cup of coffee reduces the risk of dying from chronic liver disease by 15%. If you're an avid coffee drinker, you'll be happy to know that drinking 4 cups a day reduces the risk of dying from liver disease by about 70%. Studies have shown that drinking more than 2 cups of coffee a day reduces the risk of developing liver cancer and liver scarring if you are living with liver disease. Coffee also reduces liver stiffness, which is associated with the formation of scar tissue. For a detailed video on the effects of coffee on the liver, we recommend following the link in the description. Coffee loves your brain. And it's not just about improving concentration. Coffee can protect you from Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is a progressive brain disease that affects your ability to think and leads to memory loss. Unfortunately, there is currently no cure, but early diagnosis and treatment can slow the progression of the disease. A review of studies has shown that the more coffee you consume, the lower your risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. It also reduces the risk of developing Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease is a progressive neurological disease that results in impaired balance and movement. As with Alzheimer's disease, there is currently no cure for it, but there are treatments available to slow the progression of the disease. However, if you drink coffee regularly, your risk of developing Parkinson's is much lower, and coffee can also slow the progression of the disease. In addition, limited coffee consumption can reduce your risk of developing dementia and cognitive decline. Coffee may protect you from type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is a chronic disease that affects the body's response to sugar. When blood sugar levels remain high, it can lead to serious health problems. Drinking coffee can help you reduce your risk of developing type 2 diabetes. According to a study, people who drink coffee have a lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes than those who don't drink coffee, whether it contains caffeine or not. This effect is because coffee protects the functionality of beta cells in the pancreas that produce insulin, which regulates blood sugar levels. Coffee also contains magnesium, which helps the body break down sugar. Are you trying to control your weight? We have good news for you. Caffeine can also help you control your weight, stay fit, and fight obesity. Coffee supports gut health and alters fat deposition, which is beneficial for weight control and heart health. A recent review showed that men with low body fat consumed high amounts of caffeine as part of coffee. Other studies prove that it has the same effect on women as well. Another study showed that people who consumed more than 1 cup of coffee a day were almost 20% more likely to meet the recommended physical activity. This is a proven fact that recommended physical activity is higher than those who consume less than 1 cup per day. You can add coffee to your weight loss plan, but make sure you don't add fatty milk or sugar to it. You've probably wondered why coffee boosts energy levels. Coffee contains large amounts of the stimulant substance caffeine. Caffeine boosts energy levels by increasing your metabolic rate and fighting fatigue. It also increases the release of adrenaline, the brain's energy hormone. Caffeine blocks receptors for a neurotransmitter called adenosine. Your nervous system controls adenosine levels, and when they get dangerously high, your brain slows down and you want to take a nap, or at least slow down. After drinking coffee, adenosine levels decrease and levels of neurotransmitters like dopamine increase, which boosts energy levels. A study of cycling participants after drinking caffeine found that coffee increased cycling time by 12% and significantly reduced fatigue levels. Another study had similar results, but it was conducted on golfers. In this study, it was found that consuming caffeine before and during golf increased performance, reduced fatigue, and increased subjective energy levels. The next fact may surprise you, but coffee reduces the risk of developing depression. Some studies have shown that drinking coffee reduces the risk of developing depression and helps reduce its symptoms. Every cup of coffee you consume daily reduces your risk of developing depression by 8%. One study found that in over 200,000 people, coffee consumption was associated with a lower risk of death by suicide. Another study noted that drinking at least 4 cups of coffee was associated with a significantly lower risk of developing depression than people who drank just 1 cup a day. Coffee also has beneficial effects on the skin. Coffee beans contain polyphenols such as chlorogenic acids called CGAs, which have antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties that can protect you from photoaging. You can apply liquid coffee on your skin or use a scrub made from coffee grounds. This will help you deal with skin problems like psoriasis, eczema, and acne. Just don't forget to refrigerate the coffee before using it. Last but not least, coffee improves athletic performance. You've probably heard that caffeine can dehydrate the body, which is one of the main reasons fitness experts recommend avoiding its consumption before and after a workout. However, a recent study has shown that moderate caffeine consumption before a workout increases endurance and reduces perceived exertion. Athletes who want to increase their performance and energy levels often consume coffee as an ergogenic agent. Ergogenic is also known as a performance enhancer. In another study involving about 125 older adults, it was noted that coffee consumption was associated with significant improvements in physical performance and gait speed. The researchers took into account factors such as age, amount of body fat, and level of physical activity. All of these facts and the health benefits of drinking coffee are amazing, but that doesn't mean you should readily increase the amount of coffee you consume. Now, pay attention. Coffee consumption has a number of contraindications, which include 1. Pregnancy and breastfeeding. Excessive coffee consumption can increase the risk of miscarriage, low birth weight, and other adverse effects. During breastfeeding, caffeine can be passed to the baby through breast milk. 2. Insomnia. Caffeine can disrupt the falling asleep process and shorten the duration of sleep. 3. Anxiety. Caffeine may increase symptoms of anxiety in some people. 4. Arterial hypertension. Caffeine can cause an increase in blood pressure in some people. 5. Heart disease. People with heart disease, especially those with arrhythmias, should limit their caffeine intake. 6. Peptic ulcer disease and gastritis. Coffee can aggravate symptoms of acid reflux, gastritis, and peptic ulcers. 7. Osteoporosis. Excessive caffeine consumption can contribute to the leaching of calcium from the bones, which is especially important for people with osteoporosis. 8. Urinary stone disease. Caffeine can increase diuresis, potentially triggering an exacerbation of urolithiasis in some people. These are only general guidelines, and individual reactions to caffeine can vary widely. If you have chronic diseases or other health conditions, it is recommended that you consult your doctor about caffeine consumption. In some people, coffee in high doses can cause irritability, anxiety, or nervousness, as well as affecting sleep quality and causing insomnia. At what age and how much coffee should children drink? Recommendations for coffee consumption by children vary depending on the source. But most health organizations agree that it is best for children under 12 years of age to abstain from caffeine. After age 12, moderate consumption is allowed, which should not exceed 100 milligrams of caffeine per day. In comparison, a standard cup of coffee, 240 milliliters, contains approximately 95 milligrams of caffeine. However, it is important to remember that caffeine is not only found in coffee, but also in tea, some soft drinks, energy drinks, and chocolate. All of these sources of caffeine should be considered when calculating a child's daily caffeine intake. Caffeine can have a variety of effects on children's bodies, including sleep disturbances, increased nervousness, and concentration problems. It is important to approach children's caffeine intake on an individualized basis, taking into account possible side effects and the child's overall health. So how much coffee is considered healthy and how much is too much for adults? 2 to 3 medium cups a day, as long as they are free of milk, cream, and sugar. Caffeine affects everyone differently, so if you start to experience any negative side effects, consider cutting back on your coffee consumption. Finally, how do I maximize the health benefits of drinking coffee? To maximize the health benefits of coffee, follow these guidelines. 1. Moderate consumption. Studies show that moderate coffee consumption, 3 to 4 cups per day, can provide health benefits, including reducing the risk of certain chronic diseases. However, consuming higher doses can lead to side effects such as insomnia or palpitations. 2. Avoid added sugar and cream. Adding large amounts of sugar, cream, or syrups can reduce the health benefits of coffee by adding unnecessary calories and fat. If you need to add flavor, try using natural sweeteners or small amounts of milk, plant milk. 3. Choose quality coffee. High-quality coffee is more likely to contain more antioxidants and fewer impurities that can be harmful. 4. Watch the timing of consumption. Avoid drinking coffee in the afternoon to avoid disrupting your natural sleep cycle. Consuming caffeine 6 hours before bedtime can seriously affect sleep quality. 5. Consider personal tolerance. It is important to listen to your own body and determine how coffee affects your well-being. Some people are more sensitive to caffeine and may experience unwanted effects from even small doses. 6. Keep a balance. Make sure that drinking coffee does not replace your intake of water or nutritious food. Coffee can contribute to dehydration, so it's important to drink enough water throughout the day. 7. Awareness of drug interactions. Caffeine can interact with some medications, So, if you are taking any medications, be sure to consult your doctor about possible interactions. By following these guidelines, you can maximize the positive effects of coffee on your health while avoiding possible negative effects. Although there are over 100 types of coffee, the two main ones that are produced and sold around the world are Arabica and Robusta Canephora. Arabica is the most popular of them all, mainly because of the flavor. Robusta is bitter because it contains almost twice as much caffeine. The extra caffeine in Robusta coffee acts as a natural defense mechanism against insects and other parasites, so Robusta is easier to grow and care for. This is also why it tends to be cheaper than Arabica. Which one is your favorite? Well, you probably don't know this because today coffee producers can blend the two types. For example, Italian espresso beans contain Robusta coffee because it improves the crema. Yes, coffee is a science in itself. Sometimes coffee is the real magic. So, if your body responds well to coffee, enjoy all its health benefits. Have a cup of coffee in the morning and enjoy a productive day. People have been drinking coffee for many centuries. It is one of the most popular beverages in the world, and there has been much debate over the years about how beneficial or harmful coffee is for the body. We asked a familiar gastroenterologist about this, and here's what he said. Just a few years ago, a patient who would have asked such a question during a medical appointment would have received a definitive answer. Stop drinking coffee, it is harmful. However, the results of recent studies have given us new information about the impact of coffee on human health. Annually, around 1 billion kilograms of coffee beans are produced and consumed worldwide. The leading coffee bean producing countries are Brazil, Colombia, and Vietnam, which are the largest producers. Although there are currently about 500 different types of coffee known in the world, two of them, Arabica and Robusta, are the most widespread globally. It is known that after roasting, coffee beans contain up to 1,000 biologically active substances, and, depending on the type of coffee, the methods of preparation, and the method of production, for example, instant or ground coffee, not only the taste of the coffee beverage changes, but also its impact and effect on the body. The effect of coffee on the body is primarily determined by caffeine, as well as some other substances, for example, antioxidants. The well-known stimulating effect of coffee is caused by the competition of caffeine with the substance adenosine for special receptors in the body. Adenosine, by binding to receptors in the central nervous system, has a calming effect, which promotes relaxation and sleep. Caffeine, by blocking these receptors and preventing the binding of adenosine, hinders its calming action. As a result, a person experiences an increase in activity and alertness, as caffeine maintains a state of wakefulness, counteracting the action of adenosine. Moreover, caffeine has other effects. For example, it causes the contraction of arterial vessels, except for the vessels of the kidneys, which, on the contrary, relax and expand and slightly increases blood pressure. As a gastroenterologist, I find it interesting to note the effect of caffeine on the organs of the gastrointestinal tract. It is known that caffeine can cause contraction of the gallbladder, enhance bile secretion, stimulate the motility of the large and small intestine, and cause increased synthesis of hydrochloric acid by stomach cells. As for the studies on whether coffee is harmful or beneficial, in 2012, the results of a decade-long study conducted in European countries regarding the impact of coffee on human health were published. It encompassed about 500,000 participants and unequivocally showed that individuals who consumed 3 or more cups of coffee per day had a lower mortality rate from any diseases compared to those who did not drink coffee. A similar study was completed in 2017 in the USA and showed similar results. Individuals who drank coffee were less likely to die from cardiovascular diseases, cancerous diseases, and digestive system diseases. In the same year, an analysis of a large number of clinical studies was also conducted, which showed that individuals consuming 3 or more cups of coffee per day significantly less often had cardiovascular diseases, including ischemic disease, digestive organs diseases, and strokes. Moreover, according to clinical studies, the risk of hypertensive disease, that is, increased blood pressure, was neither higher nor lower, regardless of how much coffee a person consumed. There are also study data regarding the protective effect of coffee on cancerous diseases, and a significant effect was shown in relation to prostate cancer, skin cancer, and liver tumors. It is known that coffee can affect the course of certain diseases. For instance, it was shown that consuming coffee reduced the risk of liver steatosis by 30%, as well as decreased the risk of fibrosis and liver cirrhosis. Consumption of 2 to 6 cups of coffee reduced the likelihood of developing gallstone disease. We know that some patients with gastroesophageal reflux disease may note the appearance of heartburn after consuming coffee. However, according to studies, the risk of developing gastroesophageal reflux disease itself, or heartburn as a symptom, did not increase in individuals who consumed coffee, regardless of the amount of coffee people drank during the day. Nevertheless, we know that a number of patients suffering from gastrointestinal diseases, particularly diseases of the stomach, gallbladder, and intestines, may note the appearance or exacerbation of certain symptoms, for example, diarrhea, nausea, or abdominal pain, after consuming coffee. Apparently, this is related to the same stimulating effect of caffeine on the digestive organs. Doctors can recommend patients either to reduce the amount of coffee consumed per day or to change the time of coffee consumption, say, after meals. If these recommendations do not help, it would probably be logical to advise quitting coffee altogether if it has such a negative, undesirable effect on the symptoms of the disease. Additionally, there is a restriction on the consumption of coffee by pregnant women. It is recommended to consume coffee in a volume that does not exceed 100 milligrams of caffeine per day. Less is better, as a larger dose increases, and sometimes significantly, the likelihood of problems with the fetus or miscarriage. Thus, at the present time, according to data from a considerable number of studies on large groups of people, we cannot speak of the overall negative impact of coffee. Rather, in relation to diseases, coffee seems to have a positive, protective effect, some positive action. Nevertheless, in some individuals, particularly those with poor tolerance to coffee, some symptoms may occur, specifically pain and bowel disturbances. Doctors decide individually whether a patient can consume coffee or should abstain from it altogether. In conclusion, I would like to make a remark regarding the studies themselves, following which, as I mentioned earlier, the main method of collecting information about the amount of coffee, the number of cups of coffee, was merely a survey of participants. Accordingly, each respondent had their own perception of what their cup of coffee looked like in size, and exactly what kind of coffee was in their cup. It should be said that in most cases, these studies were not talking about instant coffee, but about ground, brewed coffee. That is all for now.